Hello and welcome to Just One More Watch. As the thumbnail and video title today says, Formex have just had a baby. Isn't that nice? Congratulations Formex, good luck with the nappies and the sleepless nights. And here it is, this is what they're calling their new baby. It's a small version of the Reef Diver. The Reef is an awesome watch. I've looked at the three-hander and the GMT and I reckon it's one of the best made and best spec watches you can get for its price point. It has always been a bit of a big boy though at 42, crucially plus those wings. Now we have already seen Formex downsize their watches. For example, the Essence Leggera shrunk from a 43 to a 41, the Essence itself from a 43 all the way to a 39, and so it is with this Reef. They have reduced it from a 42 to a 39 and a half. So have they then taken the best of the Reef and put it into a smaller package? That is what we're here to find out. Now you saw the pop-up. This video is sponsored by Formex. I will therefore of course leave a link in the description of the video to the Reef. If you're keen on one of these, I'd suggest you check out their website. I'd also suggest that you check out the other reviews that are now popping up around YouTube. Let's get on with it. So what have I got for you today then? Well, the usual sexy sliders, some super detailed macro to show off the watch up close and personal. We'll talk about some of the extras that are available with this watch, meaning that you can swap bracelets and straps, and even the bezels all tool-free, which is pretty amazing. And as this one is all about size today, there will be plenty of wrist shots, high, low and pocket, plus some comparisons with the larger Reef, the big brother, the 42mm, which Formex rather handily loaned me as well for exactly such comparisons. However, I have been wrestling with one particular conundrum regarding this Baby Reef, even long before they sent me the watch. It's a sub 40mm watch with 22mm lug width. I've never seen that before. Why did Formex decide to go down that route, and is it the right route? But before we get into that, let's get into the box. Formex changed their packaging relatively recently. They used to ship their watches in a big black cardboard outer box just like this one, but it contained a full carbon hard case within it. They seem to have ditched that for another black cardboard box, just a little bit smaller than the one that contains it. And contained within that box you have the watch, obviously, plus a polishing cloth, instruction manual and a warranty card. It is a 3-year warranty by the way, which is great to see at this price point. And because this movement is COSC certified, you get the relevant COSC certification paperwork. That's all very nice, but let's have a look at the watch. If you've seen the 42mm Reef or indeed the GMT Reef before, this is pretty much a slightly shrunken version of those two watches. Now, what makes the Reef stand out from its peers are those Nautilus style wings on either side of the case. They act as a crown guard on the 3 o'clock side and help visually balance the watch as well as balancing the watch on wrist when it comes to the 9 o'clock side wing. They also serve to make the watch look and feel considerably larger than it actually is. Size is obviously an important point today, so I will come back around to it shortly. Indeed, let's get on with dimensions and specifications. Now, we know the diameter, 39.5mm, thickness, or rather thinness, is a real standout with these Reefs. It's only 11mm thick. Now that is fantastic considering this one has 300 meters of water resistance. Lug to lug is a perfectly wearable 45.5mm. Now that lot makes it sound like the Baby Reef is indeed a compact dive watch. However, the first half of the statistics don't tell the full story. This is a big baby. Lug width, as discussed, is 22mm rather than the 20 one might have expected. And weight on the bracelet, sized up for my 7-inch wrist, is 157 grams. Now again, that is at least 15 if not 20 grams heavier than one might have expected as well. As regards the rest of the dimensions, water resistance is 30 ATM as noted, crystal is flat sapphire with anti-reflective undercoating, and the movement is a COSC certified Sellita SW300. Now, Formex on their website talk about the custom skeletonized rotor and the thermally blued screws, which you can't actually see because the Reef has a closed case pack. I have seen the movement on other Formex though, and it does look nice. Now, COSC certification means +6 seconds to -4 seconds maximum daily variance, and another advantage of the SW300 over the 200 is a 56-hour power reserve. Very nice indeed. Also very nice is the screw-on stainless steel case pack with that hypnotic wave pattern etched into its centre. Also very nice is the standard of finishing on this watch. The case looks fantastic with chamfers in all the right places. The majority of the case is brushed, but there are 3 little chamfers on the top edge, 1 on each of the 2 lugs and 1 on the wing. And there's a single high polish chamfer running the length of the underside of the case, just keeping it smooth and helping with comfort. Now the Reef case is full of angles, but none of them are actually sharp angles. You do note male end links though. I say again, this is not a small watch. It doesn't wear like a small watch. Now the wing guards the crown as noted, which has a nice profile, plenty of grip, but the grip ends before the edge so it doesn't dig into the back of your hands. It's also deep etched with the Formex logo. The finishing on the bracelet is just as nice as the finishing on the case. There's a taper down from 22 to 20 at the clasp, and perhaps you've noticed these links are all quite short. That helps with sizing. It also helps with comfort. You get a better articulation and a better fit to your wrist therefore. You should also be telling from these macro shots there's a nice little high polish chamfer to the outer edges of each of those links that complements the chamfers on the lug tips and the wing tips as well. Now it is a fully milled clasp, upper and lower, with 2 circular push button triggers to release it. It doesn't look like a very big clasp either, does it? And yet, because this is a Formex, it's got a trick up its sleeve. It's got roughly a centimetre of on-the-fly adjustment. Push the trigger to loosen, and then just push the bracelet to ratchet it all tight again. And once again, because it's a Formex, the bracelet comes on and off tool-free. So that's tool-free bracelet removal, tool-free bracelet sizing, and tool-free bezel swaps. Anything else? What about ratcheting adjustment on a rubber or leather strap? Yep. Formex do that as well. This is a carryover carbon fibre and ceramic deployant that they sell with all of their watches. You can get this Baby Reef with a NATO, with a choice of leather straps, or with this rubber if you want to stay true to its dive watch principles. Now, you'll never be stuck with holes on a strap again with one of these, but they do add bulk. More on that later. Dial and hands, again, if you've seen a Reef review before, this should all look quite familiar, just a little bit smaller. All indices are applied. They are little wedge shapes, meaning they slope down towards the pinion. Indices and hands all have a deliberately rough brushed upper surface, but high polished edges. This serves to emphasize the depth of the dial and add light play. The brand logo is applied and looks really good, I have to say. It has a noticeable vertical brush to it. I say noticeable, perhaps you need to be using a loupe to see it, but when you do see it, it does look really good, as does the brand's signature date complication with the bevels on either side. There's no one else doing this, so when you see it, you know you're looking at a Formex, and I appreciate a properly colour matched date wheel. The dial as a whole has both a fade and a sunburst effect, but neither of them are particularly pronounced, meaning you can get away with both of them at the same time. And I gave you a sneak peek at the relief bezel earlier on. Ceramic, of course, it looks good and nicely done, although as you can see through the macro lens, it will attract dirt and dust, so you might have to clean it occasionally. The hands are carryovers from its big brother, slightly stubby hour hand and a slightly longer minute hand and an even longer still second hand with a loomed paddle tip. Again, that mixed brushed and polished finish. Overall, it's a good looking dive watch. When you're spending a bit of money like this, you expect it to look good, and I think the logo, the date window, the texture, the sunburst, the mixed finishing, all combining to make you feel like you got your money's worth, at least in terms of the dial anyway. And you certainly don't feel shortchanged after dark either. Formex have won installments of Lume Wars in the past, and this Baby Reef with its BGW9 hands and indices will certainly be a contender if the series returns in the future. I think my tripod slipped a little, but the Reef didn't. It's still glowing brightly at the end of my test. Okay, wrist shots. I've got it on my wrist now, but it's probably easier if I show you a few close-ups. Like these ones. I've got a 7-inch wrist for your reference. As I've said, I've had a look at the GMT and the original Reef, both of which share the same case, and I've enjoyed them, but I've always thought they were a little too large for me personally. This Baby Reef, on the other hand, is pretty much spot on. Now, of course, sizing is very subjective, and the big watches low profile mean you can get away with that larger case size if you want to. Indeed, here are the same wrist shots, but with the 42mm reef as a comparison. Now, it still fits me fine, but now that I've seen the small one, yeah, I definitely prefer the smaller one. And here are a couple of side-by-sides of the bigger and smaller reefs. Now, I'll switch them back and forth, left and right, and I'll also switch them around between the rubber and the bracelet, so there's no camera trickery, no tricks of the eye. You can get a clear view of the relative size of the two watches. So let's finish our discussions about size then. The baby label is a bit of a misnomer here. This is not a compact dive watch, it's not a small watch, and I don't think it's going to suit small wrists therefore. I would say that because of the wings, this looks and feels like at least a 40, if not a 41, which is why the 22mm lug width does not look disproportionate. Have a look at the Baby Reef next to a 39mm diver in the form of this Flukes 001. The Formex looks considerably larger. Have a look at the Baby Reef next to a 42mm Seiko SKX. What do you think? Do you think there's a huge difference between these two or not? I really don't see a huge amount of difference from that top-down shot. It's all about the wings with this one. So what I'm saying then is don't buy this Baby Reef thinking it's a small diver and it's going to look great on your 6.5-inch or smaller wrist, because I don't think it is, and I don't think you're going to be happy with it therefore. On the other hand, do buy this Baby Reef thinking it will look great on your 6.75-inch wrist or above, because I think it will, and I think therefore that you will be very happy. Alright, my favourite part of the video, it's the moans and niggles section. What does that say about me? I hinted at this earlier on, the packaging is very ordinary considering the price of the watch. Now they changed it recently and they actually made it less luxurious rather than more luxurious. If I'm spending this amount of money on a watch, I'm hoping for a bit more pizzazz than a small black cardboard box, to be honest. I mean, have a look at what you get by comparison with Christopher Ward. Obviously not quite as easy to store, but much grander. It's a much nicer unboxing experience for very similar money. Talking of money, these reefs come in at just under $2,000 these days, and with the poor exchange rates at the moment, nearly 3,500 Aussie pesos. That is a chunk of change, hence why I'm moaning about the packaging. Now, I still think there's value in the reef when compared to the rest of the market. You get that on-the-fly adjustable clasp, you get a lovely bracelet, tool-free strap swaps, tool-free bezel swaps if you want to, and you get a chronometer grade movement. But I would love to see them offer a non-chronometer grade SW200, for example, for several $100s less. Now, they used to do that with the Essence and it helped keep the brand accessible. Maybe they just don't want the brand to be quite as accessible. And I mentioned this before when I reviewed the large watch, it applies even more to the smaller watch. If you opt for the adjustable deployant, because there are 3 layers of clasp and strap underneath the watch, I think it's just a bit too much bulk, especially for this 39.5. It kind of overpowers the head of the watch. So I think the bracelet is the better option in this case. And as nice as it is to swap the bezels back and forth without the need for tools, I don't actually think any of the other colours go with the green dial, so I'm not necessarily sure that I would bother. And one final point, while we're talking about colour, they offer green, white, grey and blue, but no black. Formex told me the black was the slowest selling Reef 42, so they dropped it for the 39.5. What kind of a world are we living in where people don't buy black dial dive watches? Not a world I want to live in, I'll tell you that much. So not a moan-free review then. The price is definitely getting up there, and as much as it's nice to have options, I wouldn't necessarily recommend many of those options in this case. But it is a beautifully made watch, it looks great, it's well spec'd, and it has heaps of presence. It's chunky, but it's slim, and it's probably going to be a better fit for most people than its big brother. However, if you are looking for a compact diver for your smaller wrist, this is probably not going to be the watch for you. I'd suggest perhaps looking at a used Tudor Black Bay 58 instead. So there you have it. This is one big baby. Maybe they'll release an embryonic reef in 37.5mm with 20mm lug width one day for those people who do actually want a genuine compact dive watch. But until such time, I reckon this is going to be the best choice from the reef range for the majority of people. You're not short of Formex content on this channel, so why not click here or here for some of it. Thanks for making it all the way to the end. I'll see you again in the next one.